Hello and welcome to HyzerMedia's coverage of the Disc Golf Open of Pennsylvania presented by Home Again Disc Golf. Thank you to our coverage sponsors Cosmic Disc Golf, D-Town Disc Golf, and Reaper Disc Supply. I'm Nathan Johnson and I'm joined in the booth by Dylan Horst. How's it going, Dylan?
Not too bad, Nathan. Excited for some golf today. It's going to be a beautiful day. We're going to start off the round with Chris Villa. After two rounds, shooting negative 19. Had the hot second round at minus 12, followed by myself at negative 19. Pretty consistent rounds with minus 9, minus 10. Joined the mustache shirt. And third, we got Jesse Longenecker, shooting minus 18 over two rounds. And then rounding us out, new to the card, is Lucas Oberholtzer Hess, shooting minus 17. Snuck in after shooting a minus 9 after round two. And here we are. Hole 1, par 3, 260 feet. We're shooting up this hill, and the basket's on a sloping green.
All right, first off the tee, number 6 Global Series Masters rank, Westside Disc sponsors, your 2022 Muddy Run Championship champion. Put your hands together for Mr. Chris Villa.
It's nice we got Eric out here doing some intros. Villa's going to be first to tee here, opting for the backhand line. If you want to just push something straight up this hill, if it fades out a little bit, that's not too bad. He'll have a circle's edge putt there.
For your MPO lead card Disc Golf Open of Pennsylvania, 73rd best ranked disc golfer in the United States, tour rank. Picked up the Golden Horseshoe this year. Put your hands together for Mr. Dylan Horst.
Rocking the mustache shirt for Championship Sunday. Looks like you're lining up the forehand.
Yep, so two gaps, or two ways to approach this hole. Kind of the way Villa did with the Hyzer flip with the backhand. I'm going with the forehand. Have a little bit of tournament arm to start off the day to get an unfortunate OB long.
Third off the tee, 2022 Baldor champion. Top 5 finish last year, Disc Golf Open of Pennsylvania. He shot the hot rounds here at Klines Run. Put your hands together for Mr. Jesse Longenecker.
Yeah, juice your forehand a little bit. The slope can kind of, forehand or backhand, can really pull the disc down to the left if you're off on your angle. So really important to try to land the disc as flat as possible. Jesse's going to try to replicate that forehand line with something a little bit more overstable, a little slower, going with the captain's Raptor. Also juices it a little bit, but finds the hill safely. He'll be about 30 feet long.
Last off the tee, the man needs no introduction. Also Westside Disc sponsored. Reigning and two-time Disc Golf Open of PA champion. Put your hands together for Lucas Oberholtzer Hess.
And rounding out the card, we got Lucas. He's going to be throwing a lot of bombs today. He's a very controlled player with minimal walk-up and approach, but a very explosive delivery.
Yeah, Lucas is probably one of the farthest throwing players we have in, honestly, the entire East Coast. The kid absolutely rips Frisbees. But at this course, honestly, that doesn't really come into play too much. It's more about control, a lot of 250-foot to 350-foot shots. So we'll see how he's able to kind of tone that down and attack.
Yeah, but unfortunate early release off the first shot. Able to get up and salvage his par, but definitely wants to start off with a birdie, but a par on this hole is not too bad. Just because of how treacherous the green is, a bunch of different things can happen.
Yes, we can see where you ended up after going long off the tee shot. That's a very uphill putt that is tricky to give a run. Even these putts like Jesse has right here from about 30, 35 feet on this slope can be a little bit scary if you catch metal. Luckily, his is able to stay close after hitting those left side chains.
And here we got Villa, just a little short on the putt. Great line. It is very treacherous. There are a decent amount of bad rollaways that can happen on this hole, and it can easily go from birdie to double bogey pretty quick.
Yeah, we watched Villa kind of struggle in round one, but off camera shot a blazing hot second round to put himself back in the lead. So it'll be exciting to see if he's able to carry some of that momentum in this third round.
Jumping to hole 2, par 3, 206 feet. A majority of the players are going to take the flight that the drone's flying out and around this tree on the right-hand side. The trouble with that is not getting it far enough left where the green to the right of the basket, probably about 15, 20 feet, does have a pretty downward slope. Yeah, and unfortunate here, Chris doesn't quite get it wide enough. Hits the one tree you got to miss. There is another gap up the center. It seems like this is the way Jesse's going to try to do. Try to throw a nice flex forehand, land nice and flat, nice and soft.
Yeah, this line is super touchy because if it gets a little nose up or fades out down that hill, you're going to be 100 feet from the basket. So he catches that tree, maybe not the worst break because that looked a little bit high. So that'll drop him down quite a ways short. But yeah, the key on this hole with that slope near the basket is to just land your disc as flat as possible, which is a lot easier said than done.
Here we got Lucas getting a little sneaky through the tree, but able to push his way forward and give himself a pretty scary putt. 33 feet straight downhill, and if he misses the basket, it's going a long ways.
Yeah, I've seen discs roll all the way to the parking lot from this green, so definitely a scary putt for your second hole of the day. You take this a little bit wider, able to make the correction off of the rest of your card mates. That's the best of the group. Still a terrifying putt, but the closest nonetheless.
Yeah, Klines has a tendency to have very scary greens. So even having a putt that's off by an inch or two, there could be a lot of rollaways like we're kind of seeing here. It's unfortunate with Villa, especially since, he threw a very good upshot, and it's just unfortunate to kind of kick up and roll away.
Yeah, I mean, good upshot in that it landed next to the basket, but Chris is an experienced enough player to know if you land a disc on Hyzer, there's a very good chance, as Lucas just misses a bit short, there's a very good chance it's going to roll. You really need to be conscious of the fact that you need to land your disc flat on these upshots, or there's a good chance you're gonna get a quote unquote bad break. So last birdie putt on the card, you're able to connect after that nice drive. Pick that stroke back up that you lost on hole 1.
Yep, then here we got Jesse just trying to, he was fortunate enough to keep it nice and close on his upshot, so should be pretty routine from him on out. Villa's going to have a pretty scary putt back up the hill, probably about 35, 40 feet. It did roll a decent bit. And again, if he lands this with any bit of hyzer, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, this might even be outside the circle now. Quite a ways uphill, and uh-oh. Fortunate to kind of, there's that patch of taller grass that his disc ends up in and is able to just kind of slow it down. But if that wasn't there, that might have been right back where he started, if not even farther.
Yeah, definitely not an ideal start with Villa. Just a little off on the putting, a little bit here and a little bit there. Bad break for landing his upshot a little bit hyzer. But there's plenty of golf left. 2 rounds left in the tournament. A lot of time to kind of make up those strokes that he just lost.
For sure. Klines is a very scoreable course. Plenty of birdies out here.
Hole 3, par 4, 388 feet. What you want to do off the tee is try to get as close as you can to the silver basket, pushing long. As soon as you get up and over this ridge, it's pretty downslope all the way to the basket. Probably about 45-degree angle going down to the basket. So there's a bunch of different ways to attack the second shot. The first shot's pretty routine. Try to get as far and as right as possible to make that second shot easier. Then for the second shot into the green, what you want to do is you want to land something almost as close as you can to the basket and as flat as you can, because if you don't land it flat with a little bit of hyzer, it could kick up and roll all the way down the hill, and you'd be left with a 60-footer, 70-footer.
Yeah, the upshot can be very tricky to get your disc to the ground, just because it is such a steep downhill slope. Nice forehands from you and Jesse, just kind of putting something out there. I think Lucas is going to go for this Sky Annie play, which honestly could get him all the way to the mouth of that gap that we saw. on the shot from behind the basket. If he wants to get aggressive, this looks like a really good angle. Yeah, maybe even a little bit deep, honestly. But he's close enough. He's probably 60 feet from the basket right there, but it's going to be so difficult to stick that close just because of how treacherous the green is.
Yeah, Lucas, if he got it probably about 5 to 10 more feet out of it, I think he'd be able to see the basket. It's pretty close, but it's, again, very treacherous because you're shooting almost directly downhill. So Villa here, being pretty far away from the gap, has to craft something that kind of gets to the ground pretty quickly, and then hopefully it just doesn't have a lot of ground play, which fortunate enough to hit the ground pretty early, snag a root, and then stick right by one of the trees that's probably about 15, 20 feet away from the basket.
Yeah, I'd take that downhill 20-footer any day of the week on this hole. As you can see, Jesse with a jump putt, and his disc just sails all the way into the fairway of the next hole. That is just how steep that this green is. I like the berg play here. Hopefully something slow. Finds the ground quick. Oh yeah, there's a nice little tree to keep you close. Yeah, and you can see Lucas literally just has a jump putt, but that is what can happen on this screen.
Yeah, the camera doesn't really do it justice on this. It's very elevated. Again, probably like 45-degree angle, almost straight downhill. So these discs just get up and go very quickly if there's any type of angle on it coming down. So Chris and I are fortunate enough to kind of land short, and then Lucas and Jesse just didn't get the same luck.
Yeah, so Lucas, that's just a tough putt down there. He had that bush kind of in his way. And now Jesse, after a tough upshot, is left with this for his par. And that one does stick high right. It's a nice putt from about 25 feet, fairly uphill.
Yeah, and the conditions today were definitely a lot more favorable than the day before. Not really a cloud in the sky, and this course, you'll probably see later on, has a lot of beautiful views of the Susquehanna at some of the higher elevated holes. But it's a beautiful place and a beautiful day.
Yeah, much better than the day before. Nice putt there from Chris. A very tricky angle as he's putting almost straight down at the basket. You go for the kneeling technique, which is nice to kind of make that basket as big as possible. Give some love to the tree and take that birdie.
Since 2021, Homigan Disc Golf has been committed to bringing the highest quality discs, apparel, and accessories to players on and off the course. No matter where you are, when you're on the course, you're home again.
Hole 4, par 4, 394 feet. You want to throw, for right-handed, back-handed players, you want to throw a pushing hyzer that lands somewhere around here. There is an OB road back and to the right, so you can't necessarily throw a very straight backhand shot, or you're going to get that road into play. The idea is to throw something fairly stable on a nice soft hyzer that bends left the whole way. Hit the main gap, get yourself up there. Then for the second shot, you want to throw probably a putter up shot about 250 to 300, depending how far up the hill you went.
Yeah, the landing zone's only about 250 feet, straight, and then obviously as left as possible. Definitely helps make the next shot easier, but you don't really, like you said, you don't really want to push it straight. I kind of learned that the hard way on this hole. But enough about my round. There's Chris. Kind of a little low, a little too straight, but anything out in that field will give you something up into the left to get into that green.
Yeah, this is one of the holes. It's forward progress is key, and you don't really have to get hyper aggressive to land in a 15 to 20 foot landing zone. You can kind of pick your own adventure as soon as you kind of hit the initial gap. Unfortunately here, Jesse, a little inside, kind of kicks one of the last trees, didn't push it straight enough. So he's going to be in an awkward spot, but he still might be able to save the birdie with an excellent shot. But he might be par is definitely in the equation.
Yeah, Lucas pulls this one a little bit to the right. Looking for some finish. And yeah, he finds that path. Like we said, that path comes up quick if you push something a little too straight. And unfortunately, Lucas finds that out of bounds straight. Should be a fairly straightforward shot though to save his par. Jesse's going to have to go forehand roller here just because of the severe angle and how far it banks to the left to really climb that hill. He had pretty much no other choice if he's trying to get the birdie. So understandable play. Didn't quite execute it, I'm sure, as he would have liked.
Yeah, Lucas here is trying to throw a soft hyzer out to the right. It's fairly open gap, so he's just trying to kind of push it straight and then have it finish left toward the basket. That's an excellent shot. Puts him inside the circle within 20 feet. So good scramble for par, but definitely not what he was looking for on hole 4.
Yeah, here's Chris. Kind of got a soft hyzer, just barely squeaks past that tree. Catches one a little later on, but he'll have a longer uphill putt from there for his birdie. And this is pretty much the ideal landing zone where you're at. Just a nice soft hyzer off the tee, pretty much a straight putter upshot into the basket from there. And that'll leave you a birdie putt as well.
Yeah, and Jesse on his forehand roller hits one of the last trees, or he would have gotten probably another 10, 15 feet out of his roller to make it a more manageable putt. Uphill, probably about 45. Just a little low. It's kind of hard to make sure you get the power on that one, but gave it a good bid. It's an easy par, so it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, could have gotten into some trouble off the tee there, depending on how aggressive you would have liked. Chris, just a little low on the putt there. His putter's been a little off so far, giving himself chances, just hasn't quite been able to connect. So we'll see if he'll be able to get it going. Lucas able to save the par after going out of bounds on his tee shot.
Yeah, not the happiest with his start. Parring a bunch of the holes out of the gate. Obviously, if you're the last one on the card, you kind of want to start off pretty hot to kind of set the precedence. But he could turn it around at any moment, and yeah, he's a good enough player that every single hole out here is either birdieable or eagleable.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Lucas definitely has the power to push some of these par fours and maybe get some long putts at him, depending on how aggressive he wants to get. But we'll see, I'm sure it'll depend on how his round plays out, what sorts of decisions he's going to have to make as we move along.
Hole 5, par 3, 226 feet. It's a soft hyzer, bending a little bit to the left, try to land as flat as possible. It's a tricky distance because it's placed slightly uphill. So you kind of want to push something straight and land soft and don't fade too far left. The grass is pretty grabby. So as long as you throw something semi-straight, pushing the hyzer, and then landing pretty soft so the grass can kind of just eat it up, you'll put yourself in position to capitalize on this hole.
Yeah, nice shot from yourself there. This did play as the easiest hole on the course at a 2.31 average. So, but you do see the common miss is just people don't quite commit to it. You see the distance of 224 off the tee, and you just kind of baby it a little bit, or maybe leave it a little wide like Chris does here, and leave yourself with that tester 30-footer, which on a hole like this, you definitely adds a little bit of extra pressure because it is very gettable, and most of the field is coming away with a birdie here.
This hole does have one of the prettiest greens, though. On the back side of hole 5, it's just kind of an outlook to the Susquehanna. So a lot of people take their selfie pictures, take their tournament pictures here. It's just a beautiful sight.
Yeah, super picturesque. Jesse, his shot came out a little bit high, a little left, so he's going to have that tester putt we talked about as well. And this seems wide out of Lucas's hand, but I think he's got plenty of power to have that swing back and short birdie putt coming up for him. Yeah, this is the thing about this hole is like I'm sure Jesse was pretty upset with his shot, and he's still left with a 35-footer that just barely splashes out right side. Billow's got kind of the same distance putt here on the opposite side of the basket, a bit downhill, and he knew it out of the hand. That just wasn't going to go in.
Yeah, like you said, this being the easiest hole in the course, every one of us knows as soon as we walk up to this hole, it's a must get. It almost feels like an upshot for a lot of other courses. So everybody's willing or hoping to capitalize on this. Throw something pretty routine and then kind of get yourself in position, but sometimes it's not that easy.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to execute at the end of the day, and being on lead card, moving day per se of this tournament, um, the the pressure to execute is always there. So still a good birdie to get for yourself and Lucas, and Villa and Jesse are going to have to settle for their pars.
Hole 6, par 4, 554 feet. The ideal shot is to throw a pushing hyzer down the gap that the drone's flying to land somewhere around here. And then from here, it has the biggest opening. So from here, it's throw probably almost as just your straightest disc out of the box with a little bit of fade. You almost have to watch out for the second shot because it might actually get a little skip since by the green, it is a downward slope. I'm actually opting for a forehand through the left-hand gap.
Comes out a little late. Kicks you. Are you going to be on, what is that? 14th fairway? Something like that?
Yep, right in the middle of the fairway.
Nice. Just like you drew it up. Yeah, that gap, though, that you're aiming for is probably bigger than the gap that you can see off the tee here that kind of pushes the backside of the fairway. I've seen a lot of players throw like a backhand hyzer flip through that inside gap, but the forehand, it definitely shapes for that kind of turnover flexing forehand as well. We'll see. I'm not sure exactly which one Lucas is going for here. Okay, the more traditional line, just kind of pushing something straight back towards those trees and then have it fade back into the fairway. That's a really nice shot. And that really opens up another hyzer from about 250 to 270 into the basket from there.
Yeah, you got a little fortunate. Pushed it a little too far straight, clipped off one of the branches, but was able to fall right in the fairway. So ideal landing zone for him, probably putter upshot. Villa here throwing as pure as you can get, right up the gap. I think he pushes a little bit right. It doesn't fade quick enough, but he's still in position. Might be awkward footing, kind of getting up to the green, but he's still in a position to score.
I don't think Jesse's going for this inside gap, but gets a little fortunate on the early release and sneaks his way through, so he'll be in a good position as well.
Yeah, Villa here looking to push something pretty straight. Probably a little bit of turn out of the hand to kind of get through the initial gap, and looks like he just pushed it a little too straight right into the one he had to miss. Probably the one that he was kind of aiming for, but it's probably going to be an up and down for par.
Yeah, that's a tough break there. Yeah, basically, like you said, just push something straight that you know is going to finish to the left. This is kind of fading a little early for Lucas. Does that stay in? No. Oh, man. Gets a little bit too much ground play there up towards the green and sneaks out of bounds. So Lucas is going to have a 25-footer coming back for par. Jesse's lining up a forehand. I'm not really sure. Those gaps over there are a lot smaller, so I'm not sure exactly what he was looking at, but looks like he didn't quite make his way through, so. Tough break. What are you looking at over here?
So I'm just looking at kind of like a pushing hyzer, trying to hit. I was actually trying to go for a turnover and early released it through the tree on the left-hand side, so I got very fortunate. Wanted to throw kind of like a flex turnover, but ended up throwing a pushing hyzer. Got through the branch and still got me in position for the par. At that point, that's all I wanted. So very happy to execute it.
Yeah, so here's where Jesse's forehand approach ended up. This is another green that kind of slopes away down the hill. So Jesse definitely not going to want to run that 80-footer or so. Villa, he's got kind of the similar shot. I would be surprised if he gave this too much of a bid. I kind of sended it there. Sent it, I guess. Sent it. I don't know. Either way, for the good break to kind of hit that tree and keep him in bounds.
Yeah, like we were saying in the first round, Villa is almost a pro when it comes to hitting those 80 footers. Well, as Lucas just a little too high out of the gate. It was trying to play that uphill slope to the basket and just unfortunately a little too high.
Yeah, Villa up against this tree here. A little high right, able to stick it for the par. Yeah, like you said, these slopey greens can add up strokes quick for you on the putting green if you're not careful. Got to be intentional about, those 60 to 80 footers. If you're going to run it, commit to the run. If you're going to lay it up, commit to the layup. Those kind of half bids is where you can get into a bit of trouble if you're not careful.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because every green here is on a slope. So if you don't commit, there might be some trouble ahead. Hole 7, par 3, 271 feet. There's a gap to the left, or you could play this Hyzer or the Anheuser kind of down that gap that the drone was flying through. It's severely downhill, so you almost want to throw something with an extreme amount of touch or something that just goes at falls and hits the ground very quickly.
Kind of like a Berg.
Exactly like a bird.
Looks like that one leaks out a bit right for you. Maybe a bit of an early release on the forehand. I don't know if this gap on the forehand gap on the left side felt a lot smaller this year. I don't know if these branches are kind of growing in, or maybe it's that bush that's on the ground that's gotten a little bit taller, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but the forehand gap felt a lot smaller this year as compared to previous times I played this course.
Oh, for sure. I think it's a combination of there's a tree on the left-hand side that has branches kind of kicking out, and then that bush there as well. It's almost like you have to throw that super high stalling forehand. Looks like Jesse's going to try the same thing. Gives it a little bit too much power, but at least it hits the initial gap. Pretty bad skip just because of the downslope, but still has a putt, probably close to circle's edge.
Yeah, and we don't want to overlook Chris Villa. Great shot on the backhand line, able to stick his shot pretty close. Lucas is going to opt for the forehand line as well. This looked a little early out of the hand, I would think. And yeah, he's over there on the right side. That's a very scary putt with the downslope kind of behind the basket. We'll see. Lucas is a pretty aggressive player, so I'd expect him to be fully committed to this one from about 40 feet. Wow, and he sticks it. Cold-blooded. Lucas grabbing the birdie from circle 2 with a death putt.
Yeah, it's a very nice momentum shift. Not necessarily feeling the putts early off in the round and walking up to that one feeling all the confidence in the world. It's a good way to kind of turn the round around.
Yeah, super impressive to watch. Great bounce back. Here's Jesse now for his birdie, coming back up the hill. A little less scary of a putt. Still don't want to hit the cage, though. That catches a bit of the left side chains. Sticks it close. Here's a tap-in par for yourself, and we still haven't even gotten to Villa's drive yet. That just shows you how close he was able to stick it.
Yeah, and this is one of the many holes on this course. If you get it close, it feels great. Stress-free birdies are amazing.
Yeah, there's not too many of them on this course, especially with all the slopey greens and the unpredictable ground play. Yeah, you kind of never know what you're going to get.
Hole 8, par 3, 380 feet. The most popular gap is this gap that the drone's flying through, throwing a backhand turnover. So a backhand that's flipping the whole way, kind of just going dead straight with a little bit of fade at the end. There is a Hyzer gap that we might see later with more power throwers, but the biggest gap on the hole is probably this nice and straight gap. So you can either throw the Hyzer flip, which Chris is doing, or you can throw a forehand power shot through it.
Yeah, just a bit overturned there from Chris. It's kind of an easy mistake to make. You can see the path on the left-hand side of the fairway is out of bounds. So if you throw a backhand, it clips one of those trees in the gap and kicks left. I've seen many shots fade all the way into that out of bounds. So that's kind of the mistake you want to avoid. I think to avoid that happening, Lucas is going to line up this hyzer gap, which is a little tougher to get all the way to the basket, but it definitely is the safer play in terms of keeping your disc in bounds the entire time.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, playing this hole for par is not a bad thing. It feels like a bonus birdie just because it's so far forward and you have to throw something so straight. And kind of like the score separation on this one can easily turn from parked birdie to double bogey 5 real quick.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, this was actually, it was the least birdied hole on the entire course for this round. So, like you said, not an easy birdie. You're opting for the forehand just to hit the gap, give yourself maybe an outside look at the birdie. I don't hate that play at all.
Yeah, at that point, it's just throw the most comfortable shot. So for me, it's that power forehand, slight flip up, just to kind of hit the gap. And then here is Jesse trying to hit the center gap, probably with a little bit of turn.
Yeah,
Kind of comes out a little bit right and hits one of the same trees that Villa hit, just a little bit overturned.
Yeah, it's a pretty common miss with the slope, and just you got to move the disc a little bit from left to right to kind of make that gap as big as possible. You see a lot of players hit those two trees that kind of define that main middle gap. So good up and down for Jesse. He'll be able to save the par. Villa looking to do the same with super technical backhand turnover shot that he makes look way easier than it is.
And Lucas with an outside look, jump putt, trying to give it a little bit. The green does slope down the hill to the path. So Lucas giving it a nice soft bid, nice gentle landing. So can walk away with an easy par.
Yeah, last chance on the group for the birdie. Just didn't quite commit to it. Fades out a little bit left. You'll have to settle for the par as well. Like we mentioned, least birdied hole on the course, only 2 birdies on the day. So we'll give some shout outs to Remy Millar and Shane McCullen for the 2 birdies. That's definitely a bonus, like you said, and a one you're feeling really great about if you're able to pick it up.
Yeah, it's excellent. It requires a very precise shot off the tee or a fantastic putter. I have a feeling it was definitely one or the other. One of those guys in that group is a pretty good putter. And to wrap out the front 9, we have hole 9, par 3, 354 feet. This path on the left-hand side is out of bounds. The 2 main options here are throwing a hyzer flip that goes straight and kind of drifting to the right. And then you have the branches to deal with right before the basket. Or you can throw a pushing forehand hyzer or a nice forehand flex shot to miss the last tree in the fairway and then kind of scoot your way up to the basket.
Chris is opting for the backhand line. I think that is the purest way to throw this hole. If you've got like a slightly understable mid-range or putter that you can just pop on hyzer and let it slowly turn over the entire way. Such a cool flight to watch, and definitely kind of shapes the fairway the best. The forehand can kind of get a little squirrely with this last tree on the left-hand side. Lucas fades just in front of it, and he's going to be behind that tree at the end. So I don't know. He might not have a putt from there. He might just have to lay it up. We'll see.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. It kind of hit and dropped. So he's going to have, him and Villa are both going to have kind of a similar putt with those branches that are sticking out. Just have to contend with those. I'm kind of going with the low screaming forehand hyzer. It skips underneath the tree and kind of skips a little forward. Gets to about 25, 30 feet. So have a pretty good opportunity for the birdie.
Yeah, that's a great result on this hole. Any sort of open putt you will take, because that last tree can kind of make things pretty difficult if you're under or behind it. Jesse's going to go with, I think this is his zone, so kind of trying to go with a little bit of a hyzer. Or I mean, he kind of went with more of a flex angle, actually. Gets a good amount of fade, though, at the end. And or actually, he went justice. That makes a lot more sense. Um, to, yeah, go for the hard flex line and work the disc back at the end.
We have Lucas from just outside circle 2. Just a little low. Little branches were in the way. He actually said sorry to the tree as he unfortunately clipped a couple of the leaves off.
That's very nice of him. It's good. It's good to be nice to the trees out here. You know, they can be pretty cruel at times playing disc golf. Ah, Villa, just another metal hit from Circle's Edge. Just been a little off this round. And yeah, your drive ended up in a great spot as we see the dance moves from Jesse in the background. He knew that. He knew you were gonna make that putt.
I'm glad he knew because I wasn't sure.
At least somebody had faith, you know, that's a good sign. Jesse, that's a really great tee shot. This is a really tough hole to park, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to grab that birdie.
Yeah, it was a very slow start for Jesse, but it was nice to kind of get that birdie to kind of wrap up the front 9.
Yeah, pretty exciting disc golf. You've kind of pulled away a little bit, giving yourself a 3-stroke lead on the card, but there's plenty of players out here that are shooting hot at Klines Run to make this a really interesting tournament. So stick around. We've got the back 9 of round 3 coming right up. You're not going to want to miss it. Lots of fun, exciting golf still to come. As always, we got to shout out the Norse gods as well as the Patreon family for making this coverage possible.